Hello and welcome to this video on how to configure VMware's SASE POP or Secure Access Service Edge solution. In this video we'll be taking a look at how you configure the solution and also what it looks like from an end user's perspective. We'll start by logging into the SD-WAN Network Orchestrator and then we'll navigate to Secure Access. Once in here, we can click the New Service button to configure a new secure access policy. I already have one configured though, so I'll show you the one by editing the one I already have. In step 1 of the wizard, we must start by defining a DNS name. The DNS name must be unique and the wizard will check whether it's unique before it allows you to continue. Next, we must enter the API address for your Workspace ONE UEM environment and the organizational group ID. Finally, you must add the credentials with API access at the bottom of the screen, then click Next. The second screen of the wizard asks you to enter some networking settings such as which DNS service you want to use and some details about your enterprise IP ranges. Once you've selected these options, click Next to continue. In step 3 of the wizard, you can specify where you want your POPs to be configured. Here you can see I already have some selected, but by removing these and clicking the drop down, you can see a list of the ones that are available and you can see that I can select up to 5. I'll select some that are in my region by just clicking on them in the list, and when I have the 5 that I require, I'll click Next to continue. Step 4 allows me to link my Secure Access Service Edge service to a cloud web security policy. As you can see here, I've already got mine linked, but at this point you probably won't have one configured. You'll have to come back and edit this once you've created one. Click Next to continue, and on the final screen you can add some optional information before clicking Finish to complete the wizard. Back on the main screen you can see a summary of your settings, including the description, the number of POPs you selected, the DNS settings, whether you selected to link it to a cloud web security policy, the current status of the deployment and the service status of the POPs that you've selected. You can click on the service status of the POPs by clicking on the number and it will show you the current service status of the ones that you selected. As you can see, these are all in service. Next, we need to download the certificate for the Secure Access Service Edge. Navigate to Cloud Web Security, then click Configure, then click SSL Termination. And in here you should see a button called Download Certificate. Grab this because we'll need it shortly. Now that we've configured the Secure Access Service Edge solution, we need a device to connect to it. So I've jumped to my Workspace ONE UEM solution where I have a device that I've already configured. The first step to configuring access to the Secure Access Service Edge is to define the tunnel settings by going to Groups and Settings, All Settings, Enterprise Integration, and VMware Tunnel. Next, you'll need to edit the tunnel service to specify the DNS name for your SASE POP. You can see I've already entered mine in here, and I can test connectivity to it by using the Test Connection button. If the SASE POP is reachable, you'll see that the connection will be successful. And I can click on the More Details option to view the connectivity to each of the POPs. The next thing that we need to do is configure the device traffic rule set. There are 2 ways that we can configure the traffic rule set. The first way is on a per application basis. By editing this, you can see that the tunnel mode is set to per application and we can add individual rules for different OS types and different applications within those OS types. And we can specify which applications will use the tunnel and which ones will be bypassed. The second way to configure it is a full device profile. This way we are sending everything to the SASE POP. However, we can still put some bypass rules in for traffic that we do not want to go via the tunnel. The thing we need to do is configure the actual tunnel application that we want to deliver to the device. This is done in the Apps and Books section, and you can see I've already downloaded the tunnel and configured it to be deployed to my device. Next, let's take a look at the device itself. You can see in here by looking at the Profiles tab that I've delivered two profiles to the device which are needed to configure to the SASE POP. The first one is delivering the certificate that we downloaded previously. You'll see that this profile is delivering a credentials payload which contains the certificate. The second profile that we need to deliver to the device is the VPN profile. This tells the device to use the tunnel application and tells it where to connect to. You'll see that this is deploying a VPN profile, and within it you can see that we've specified the Workspace ONE tunnel application and the DNS name for the SASE POP we created earlier. You'll also see that we've defined a traffic rule set which is for the full device tunnel. Let's take a look at the device. You can see that the tunnel is already deployed and it's already connected using the full device profile that we configured earlier. The tunnel, however, isn't the only method of connecting to the SASE POP solution. We can also use an SD-WAN VeloCloud appliance. The appliance can be configured to connect to the SASE POP, and it can also have a policy assigned to it which tells it to use the Cloud Web Security policy. Here you can see that if we edit the business policy, we have one called CWS or Cloud Web Security. And if we look inside this, we can see that this is actually sending all internet traffic via the Cloud Web Security Gateway, and it's using the policy that we've already defined, which is the CWS policy. We've talked a lot about the Cloud Web Security policy. Let's have a look how it's configured. Navigate to Cloud Web Security in the Network Orchestrator. Then click Configure. In here you can see we can add a new policy. I already have one that I configured earlier, so let's edit that. In here you'll see that we can create CASB rules and web security rules, and the rules for each of these are listed underneath. First of all, let's take a look at a CASB rule by clicking the Add Rule button. The first thing you can do is select who the rule is assigned to. You can tick the box for all users and groups to apply to everyone, or you can specify individual users or individual groups. Once you've done this, click Next. Here you'll see we are presented with a list of over 1,000 SaaS applications which we can configure rules for. And we can select one or multiple applications by clicking on the button to the left hand side. Each one of these applications is assigned a category and its own risk score. If we want to, we can select all the applications by clicking the All Applications button, but in this case let's do a custom selection and select some file sharing apps. Then click Next. On the next screen you'll see that we have a number of different controls. Firstly, we can allow or block access to these sites, and if we select Allow, we can allocate controls at a very granular level, such as being able to turn off everything in the list apart from the ability to log in and download. And it will tell you on the right hand side which of the apps contain which controls, as not all websites will contain all the controls. When you've done that, click Next and move to the final screen. Here you can select some options such as rule name, tags, reasons, and select the position for the rule in the list. Now let's take a look at the web security rules. In here you'll see we have 4 different rule types, starting with SSL inspection. You'll see at the bottom of the rule list that the default rule will inspect all SSL certificates. If there are some known addresses where we do not want to do SSL inspection, we can add a bypass rule by clicking the Add Rule button below. The second type of rule is the URL filtering. Here we can add a rule, and you'll see there are 3 different types we can add: website category, threat category, and domain. Let's start by looking at website category. Using the website category, you'll see that we are presented with a list of different categories we can choose to apply a rule to. In this case, we'll select gambling, dating, and adult material. The second type of rule is the threat category. And you'll notice here that we are presented with a list of threat categories that we can select from, such as spam, phishing, and malware, for example. The third type of rule is the domain rule, and here we can specify individual domains by typing them in the specified domains field. For all three of these different rule types, we can choose who to assign them to, and in step 3 of the wizard, we can choose whether to allow or block access to any of these rule types. On the final screen, we can select to add a rule name, a tag, and a reason for the rule. The third type of web security rule is content filtering. And you'll see that we can add a rule and we can choose from an upload or a download transfer type. And we can see from a list of file type categories which are explained on the right hand side of the screen. In this case, we'll select a category of scripts and executables. And we can select from a list underneath of which executables we want to implement controls for. Next, you'll see that we can choose who to assign them to, and if we want to, we can specify different domains or different categories that we want to apply them to. You can see here that I've already configured some to block compressed file downloads and to block script downloads. The fourth type of rule we can configure is content inspection. Click on Add Rule and we'll take a look. You'll notice we can choose between upload or download or both, and we can choose to inspect content based on a file hash or a file type, and again you'll see file type categories below with an explanation on the right hand side. In this case, we'll select archives and compressed packages, and we'll select some type of compressed files. Then we'll click Next. As with all these different rule types, we can choose who they're applied to and which domains or categories they're applied to. And as this is a content inspection rule, we can either choose to mark the files as clean, mark them all as infected, or we can choose to inspect them, and we have different levels of checks including file hash check, full file scan, or sandbox inspection, or we can do all three. Once we've selected the options we want, we'll click Next. Whichever types of rules you configure, either in CASB or web security, be aware that none of them will be applied until you click the Publish button in the top right hand corner. And when you click the Publish button, be aware that it can take up to 5 minutes for your policies to take effect. We've done all the configuration. Let's take a look at it from an end user perspective. Here we have the two desktops, the first one connected via the tunnel. And you'll see that when we try and connect to a dating site, we are blocked by the website category being categorized as dating. On the right hand side, where the machine's connected via the VeloCloud SD-WAN appliance, we get exactly the same result even though the second machine is not using the tunnel. If we try and go to an additional category which is blocked, such as a betting site, we also get blocked, as you can see here. And if we try and go to a website which is blocked by the malware category, you'll see if we try and download a file from that website, you can see that that too is blocked. And we also configured a rule to block the download of zip files. And you'll notice that when we go to download a zip file, it too is blocked by the Cloud Web Security policy. Now let's take a look at a CASB rule. I configured one earlier for LinkedIn which allows you to browse the website, but it does not allow the end user to log in. As you can see, I can reach the website and I can browse its pages. But if I try to click the sign in button, I get blocked because the policy does not allow me to log into this website. Finally, you'll probably want to be able to monitor all this, see what threats are out there, and see what possible vulnerabilities your users might be exposed to. We can view all this from the Monitor tab under Cloud Web Security. Do all this from the Monitor tab under Cloud Web Security, where we can view threat analysis, traffic analysis, and CASB analysis. We can also choose to view the web logs, which show all the websites your users have been browsing. And if we want to, we can even search for a particular user by using the filter command. Here, we can apply the filter and look at all the browsing activity of a particular user. And that's it. Your Secure Access Service Edge and your Cloud Web Security policy are configured, and all your end users' traffic is secured. And that's it. That's how to configure the Secure Access Service Edge and the Cloud Web Security in just a few minutes. Hope you enjoyed it. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello.